All right, so I got another special guest for you all to come up, and a very, very good friend of mine. I've known her for quite some time. I'm going to bring up Madam DA, Fani Willis, to give us
So I got a good sense I know between you all and dinner, so I'm not going to talk real long. I promise that, but I'm literally standing here with my heroes, and I'm standing here as a district attorney, but also, for those of you all who don't know, I live in the city of South Fulton, and this has been my home where I raised my children as a single mother for the last 18 years. And so the city is very special to me, but you all are special too, and I wanted to make sure that I said some things tonight that really just tell you how much we as a community appreciate you and how much I truly love your Chief Meadows. If you haven't heard before, I've known him long before he was the chief. He likes to tell the story of how we started, which was really with a fight. He was the lead homicide detective when I was a prosecutor in the homicide unit. He was a homicide police officer. And he had the audacity and the nerve to go to the then district attorney and say, this child don't need to be prosecuting my homicide case. To which I got to go through his file and say, and you need to go back and do 10 more things. And we've been successful from that trial to many, many more trials. And so he's what I like to call real police. And it's really important that when you have a leader, you have someone that's real police so they can know what you need. But as I watch him and as I watched him grow as a chief, I'm just so impressed that he's more than real police. He's also a visionary. And this vision that he has for advancing the city and making sure that my investment in my home and my investment in my person is safe. And so I'm really, really just so happy to hear that. When I ran for district attorney, I promised to voters that I want a balanced approach to reducing crime. And it's probably because I was watching leaders like Chief Meadows. I want to take you all back 4 years ago when I was running to be district attorney. One of the things that I said when I first became the DA is that we had a gang problem. And he doesn't call me Madam DA, he calls me Fani. And he came in and wife, I hate to tell you, he was cussing mad. And what he was mad about was the fact that other people in this county and other police chiefs, let me be very much more specific, were trying to pretend like this area did not have a gang problem. And he was annoyed. He was like, what are they talking about? And I was telling him, I don't know what the hell they're talking about. We know that there is a gang problem in this community, and unless we address it, the problem is not going to go away. And so what you may not realize is you all were the very first department that started to put intact gang policies. And it's really only after that, when we got Chief Sherbaum in the city of Atlanta, that Atlanta also started to do it and to acknowledge there was a gang problem. Because 4 years ago, they were acting like me and your chief had two heads, telling us that there was only a gang problem in Chicago and Los Angeles, and we were both banging our heads up against the wall saying, like, these people are crazy. There's a gang problem here. Why are we going to just, put our head between our legs and pretend like we don't see it? And so I'm very honored to be working with someone like him and always having this partnership and his family, really between the district attorney's office and the city of South Fulton. And it doesn't mean that my ADAs won't have conversations with your detectives where we say, go do 10 more things, or that you all don't correct us because you're not happy with the way you handle us. But we handled you. But what we know is that there will always be communication, and together we are going to make, and have already made this community much safer, because we aren't just, you all are not the kind of police department, we're not the kind of agency where we're just prosecuting grandma on the way to church with a ticket. We're not wasting time with that. You all really have been a department that have targeted your investigations and focused. And as a result, as a result of your actions, we've actually seen results in the city where I live is much safer. And it's because I think that we have worked together. Above all, I almost came to tears because the last couple of years have been really hard for me. but what has kept me safe is this police department. So that's why it's an honor to stand among my heroes. But as I stood here, I had no idea that you all were going to bring the dogs out. I didn't know that that was part of it. Well, his favorite is much more my favorite. And I'm going to tell you why. Recently, I read some reports that I'm making up all these threats, which is ridiculous when I've been able to show people hundreds of threats. But it's this police department where y'all have scared my daughters to death because they've come out the house and there's a police officer walking around the house making sure we're okay. But every single day, many times, twice a day, Perry was going around my house to make sure there were no bombs. And every single day, if you know Sergeant Martin and his spirit, my father was still living in my home as well as one of my adult daughters, even after I had left for a little while. My daughter was in and out, you know, as 20-year-olds had come back. But she had come back to the house a couple of times during that Christmas day. My dad was there pretty consistently. And because the process that Sergeant Martin would take to go around the house and go through his process I don't understand, he would do, my father would be able, the old man would be able to catch him before he left. And Sergeant Martin, I listened to one of them, and what he had most of all was professionalism, because he was never disrespectful to my father. He always listened, and he listened to when my father told him, I'm a little bit concerned. There's a man up the street that's been watching the house, and I think it's strange to me. Sergeant Martin never brushed him off. He always listened. Or when someone put markings on my house, Sergeant Martin would sit there and listen. And every single day, methodically, either him or there was a second person that would come when he was not available. But almost 98% of the time, it was that dog that was making sure that those threats didn't come with bombs. And so, it's very emotional for me to see him, and for you all to really understand, I'm not surprised that dog got the #1 thing, because his dedication to making sure that really just a citizen was safe. And what the chief told me is, you ain't gotta leave the city. You know, I'm not living in my house right now. I refuse to sell it because it's where I raise my children and it's where I plan to return just as soon as I can. And as soon as it's safe and I'm not putting such a burden. But what the chief has always promised me is, you don't have to leave my city. This police department will keep me safe. And so many of y'all did. So many of y'all walked around my house. So many of y'all showed up. That dog showed up daily to just make sure that me and my family were okay. And I can be Madam Gay, but at the end of the day, I'm just a single mom trying to raise my children. The other thing that happened was this Christmas. My daughter, after she had left us, we had cooked together on Christmas Eve. My daughter went home back to the house. I didn't have to rely on a 911 call or anyone else. It was your chief that called me, basically to say, what the heck is going on? I've got men going to your house. Your house has been docked. They say they killed a woman inside. I cannot tell you the level of terror I had thinking that my 26-year-old child was dead and not knowing what the heck had happened, because that home address has been docked so many times by people who have decided that they would choose hate as a mechanism. And again, before we could send anyone, it's you all that showed up. And so I am so thankful, and I am extremely grateful to the courage that this police department has. It does not surprise me that it is not your office or this organization that we see in a lot of the police cases that are questioned. Very rarely is it a complaint about this police department. It does not surprise me when the citizens talk about the level of professionalism. And it does not surprise me when I listen to, this is a city that is leading in crime reduction. Not as a district attorney, but just as a citizen who has chosen to raise her family in this city. I just want to thank you for all that you all have done and continue to do to keep us safe.
Thank you, Madam